Rockets and Knicks were in Game 5 when O.J. started that fateful drive. His four-way hazard lights were blinking, and no one knew what the Jews was thinking.
I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa.
Good evening. Welcome to Oversight Live. That ended quickly, and I didn't mean for that to happen. But we're going to roll with it. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is Oversight Live. I am Ben Carpenter, your host, and we're going to get started. The Alaska legislature is completing its final day, but the governor has called a special session starting tomorrow or the following day. So it ain't over yet. However, there are a lot of bills that are being rushed through the bodies to get them passed by the end of this session, because all of the bills that don't get passed this session die. You have to bring them back forward to the new legislature next year. This is the second session of the legislative of this legislature, the 34th legislature. And so any of the bills that are left over that don't get passed are died. If you have a bill at the end of the first session, it carries over into the second session, but here it doesn't. All right, Oversight Live, your road to Juneau until we can build one. We are going to bring you relevant content so that you can provide better oversight of your elected representatives, so you can make better decisions at the ballot box, so you can influence in everyday life. When you're having to talk with your representatives, you actually know what's going on, right? If you got questions about what we're watching, you got questions about what's going on in Juneau, just chat. We're live streaming here on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And if you chat in your window there, I'm going to get your response or get your question. And I'm going to do my best to answer your thoughts or answer your questions. If you're watching this show on the recording, then you can email producer@oversightlive.com, producer@oversightlive.com. And I will do my best to answer your email either by email, or I will answer it in the following subsequent show to get your answer out. And I mean, like, if you've got a question, odds are other people have the same question. So we're just going to use this to edify ourselves and become better at what we do. All right. So we're going to attempt to have some fun. This is the last day. Last day of the regular session, and the special session is going to kick off here. The governor has called it, which means the special session is going to be limited to whatever the governor puts on the call. And right now, he has put House Bill 381. I think it's either 381 or it's I think it's House Bill 381, because it's the House's version of the gas line tax bill. So that is what is going to be discussed for however long the legislature decides to discuss it. Sometimes they get in and they get their business done. Sometimes it stretches out. Sometimes they just do nothing at all, and they wait for the time to expire and be done, because the governor can't force them to do anything. He can force them to have a special session, but he can't force them to show up and actually do work. All right. Good evening. Let me turn my comments on here so people can follow along with what's happening out in the ether. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate your patience and your discipline to check in and find out what's going on with the legislature every night or a couple times a week. All right. Well, if you're not paying attention, the Senate's on the floor right now, and they are debating, if you will. They're maybe having a discussion about House Bill 195, because it's in a House bill in the Senate and it's the last day. If they decide to pass it, then it goes to the governor. There is a whole list of bills that they've got before them, and the bills that they actually have. I'm going to share my screen here, and you'll be able to see. Make myself small. You can see the screen. All right. So this is a list of the bills that KTOO, courtesy of KTOO, they have put these bills up here as what the Senate has noticed is the what's on their calendar to deal with. Okay. So they're all House bills. The House is like, we stayed up late. We passed all these bills over to the Senate. See ya on the last day. So they've got till basically midnight tonight, and then it's done. So whatever they can get done between now and midnight, that's it. And then after midnight, it should be done. So we got a lot of bills to that they're taking on. So 195, just listing here, and I don't know what order they have actually done these. House Bill 195 is the third one on this list. So if they started in numerical order, they're only on 3, but I doubt that's the case. So we'll find out here. Okay. I want to show you something else, because from my what I've been looking here is that the House is already adjourned, or they're no longer broadcasting, at least. So we're kind of limited to what's going on in the Senate. And if there's somebody that's from the House and you're chatting here, can you tell me whether the House has sine died, adjourned sine die? That means they're done. They're not coming back. If that's the case, then the House is done and we don't have to worry about them. If they recessed, then they may come back for some reason later this evening. I'd be surprised if they sine died, but maybe they did. Okay, I want to show you something else here, and this is what goofed up things earlier. Okay, here we go. All right, I did some math for y'all. Not math. I put a spreadsheet together for you. Okay, so I'm going to make it bigger here and make it a little bit. Whoop, that's too. There we go. All right, so what I did is I went to the website and I pulled off what is listed on basis or listed on the website of the bills for this session as they sat a couple hours ago when I was prepping for the show. So the tab that we're looking at right now is only the bills that have passed that the governor has signed or the governor is allowed to have signed that became law in this session only, not the entire legislature, which would include the first session. This is what became law this session already. Okay. So House Bill 33, House Bill 289, and Senate Bill 40 were all passed by the legislature this session. The governor either signed them or allowed them to go become law without his signature. And that's when you see this Chapter 2 SLA 20, State Law of Alaska 26. I think that's what the SLA stands for. And then your status date of when that happened. So both of those first two were in April, and then the Senate bill was the beginning of May. All right. So those are the 3 bills that have passed. These, and let me make this a little bigger for you. These are the bills that passed the legislature, and they were subject to the governor's veto. There are 2 of these bills that the legislature then overrode the veto. Okay. So I'll highlight those right now. HB 57 at the end of April became law. Okay. And that was that was a veto that was overridden by the legislature. SB 183 became law as well. And that's the bill that was dealing with legislative budget and audit. All of these other bills, HB 69, HB 70, HB 78, all of these were vetoed by the governor. And when you say when it says vetoed by the governor here, but it doesn't have a sustained or a state law, that means that the legislature never took it up. They never held a vote to override the veto. So when it says veto sustained, that means they had a vote and the vote failed. The veto sustained, or it was maintained, and so it did not become law. All right. So by my count, that is what do we got? 10 bills that the governor vetoed and prevented coming into law. Okay. And again, if you want to look this up, you can go to the website, and I'll show you when I'm done reviewing these tabs in the Excel document. I'll show you where you can go to find it yourself. It isn't as easy to find as I've done the legwork to pull it out of one big document. The website's a little hard to use. The information's there, but you just have to parse through it. It's not easy. So I'll show you how you do that, though. Okay, so what is currently happening? So as of the time that I pulled this information from the website, again, let me make it bigger. I need that status date. There you go. This is what has been transmitted to the governor. You can see the status dates over here. They're all in May. These are the bills that were passed by the legislature and transmitted to the governor, and he has not decided yet whether he's going to veto them or allow them to go become law. So they all have an effective date. The bills have an effective date. He's got a certain time period to issue his veto. They'll become law when it becomes effective, in the legislation. But whether he issues the veto or not remains to be seen. Okay. But these are the bills that have passed the legislature and have gone to the governor. So you've got Representative McCabe's specie is legal tender, and there we go. There's the House bill. House Bill 26, statewide public and community transit plan, Civil Legal Services Fund, HB 48, and Senate Bill 192, evacuation designation levels. All right. I'm just looking at these and thinking it all seems like a bunch of low-hanging fruit. Notice there isn't something here waiting for the governor that has something to do with a gas pipeline or dealing with the permanent fund dividend or any of the big issues that are weighing on the state, right? Nothing yet. We can check back later tonight or tomorrow to see what has been transmitted to the governor. All right. This list is what's still in the legislature, but it's passed both houses. And it's got a formality. It's got to go back to the originating house. And then that needs to be just a tad. There you go. And then it goes back to the originating house, and then it gets transmitted to the governor. So these are all the bills that are going to be sitting on the governor's desk shortly. They aren't yet. They will be. There's quite a few of them here. So we got snow classics. We got home health care employment standards, advisory board bill. We've got arts and culture day. We've got CNA training. And these are all the short titles of the bills. For many of them, I can't tell you exactly what they are because I haven't read every single one of these bills. But if you have a question, you can go ahead and chat me it, and we can pull up one of these bills and see what they do. Alcohol, patriotic organizations, club licenses, there's a local boundary commission bill, vehicles, the title, this Senate Bill 104 has been around for a long time. I'm sorry, that I got that confused with another one. Vehicle, this is a transfer of a title upon death automatically, I believe. You got a fisheries bill, you got an invasive species management bill, early intervention services, employment information disclosure, school nutrition, prohibiting dyes in foods. Okay, so that's all sitting there waiting for the governor to decide. I'm sorry, they're not on his desk. They will be transmitted to the governor. All right. Here is the list of bills that the House concurred with the Senate and the Senate concurred with the House on the opposites bills. Okay. And they're waiting for the process as to whether they're actually going to pass them or not. Okay. We've got another list that is waiting for concurrence. And as of the time that I pulled this, there was only one bill waiting for a concurrence or received from the amendments that were made in the other body. So here is another list of bills that could end up on the governor's desk if they get finalized and passed by midnight tonight. And so some of these are what the legislature, either the House is finished doing their work on, and the Senate is currently working on. These bills, if they don't pass the Senate, they don't finish the formalities by midnight, then they will not become law. And we already had this conversation a long time, or 2-3 sessions ago, when the House refused to end this session at midnight, and we just kept going and passing bills. And I stood up and spoke about the absurdity of this, because constitutionally it says you're done. When the day's done, you're done. And the courts backed it up afterwards. So whatever was passed, I believe whatever we passed after midnight became null and void. I'm sure somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's what I remember. Okay, so here is a whole bunch of bills. Been very productive this last couple days. You just imagine that you might have had some time to know exactly what's going on in these bills if they had attempted to pass these, sometime in the last 5 months instead of cramming them all on the last day. I mean, honestly, this is not good governance. Just highlighted it, right? This is not good governance. Some of this you followed, some of it you haven't. And you remember a couple shows ago, I said that there's a process. Once the budget bill goes into the conference committee, the 24-hour rule comes into effect, so that, get this. Look at all these bills, okay? Look at them all. Just think about all of the public testimony that this could represent, okay? All of these bills, because they're being moved within the 24-hour rule time period, means that they avoided the 5-day notice requirement before they take up these bills. What does that mean? It means that the legislature, by our rules, has to notify you, the public, before we have public testimony, before we pass a bill, before we do anything on the bills. We're supposed to give you 5 days notice. Before we put it on our calendar, 5 days notice. These bills are now being put to the floor because they passed out of committee and were calendared for the floor within the 24-hour rule, which goes into effect after the budget bill, your operating budget, goes to conference committee. Once that's in conference committee, the 24-hour rule goes into effect, and then you only have to give 24 hours notice for bills. Okay? So rush as much as you can to get through after the 24-hour period, because nobody's able to keep up. You don't have time to do public testimony, and you don't have time to do much of anything. You just rush it through. I'm not lying. Like, you're looking at the list of bills that are all, here's the status date. They all passed the bodies, and they're waiting for official action before they can go to the governor. These dates would be earlier in the year if they had done the same thing in April or February or March, right? All right, we did awaiting concurrence. I showed you the one bill that's there. That's the HB 280, apportion taxable income. It's in House rules. And it's awaiting, maybe it's already done now, but it's basically awaiting the other bodies. It's a House bill. It's awaiting Senate to say whether they concur or, I'm sorry. Yeah. House awaiting. No, it's in the House. So the Senate made changes to it. The House is waiting to put it on the floor and decide whether they are going to agree or not with the Senate changes. Now, if the House gavelled out, they gavelled out after I pulled this information, so they probably already dealt with this. Okay, so that is, in a nutshell, the bills that are sitting there waiting for action by midnight and waiting for action from the governor. And he's got his work cut out for him. after the session's over, he'll have all these bills sitting on his desk, and now you got to figure out what to do with them. So, all right, let me check in with you all and see what you have to say tonight. And I also need to check back with the Senate and see what they're up to. The majority leader is chatting right now, and I'm going to bring her up. Nope. Okay, I want to remove that. Okay. There we go. Get my my buttons set here. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. There you go. Bam. Okay, so now Senator Giesel is chatting away at something. Okay, let me check what questions you guys have. Craig, look at all of the good work that our legislature is doing. This shouldn't induce rage. Miguel asked the question, who really thinks they're going to solve the gas line issue in the special session? Yeah, so that's a good question. The likelihood that the Senate leaders and maybe the House leaders, but likelihood that the Senate leaders are going to play ball with the governor with regard to the gas line after he vetoed their defined benefits bill, slim to none. I think like the governor's called the special session and he only put the pipeline bill on. Okay. So here's where hardball. This is politics hardball. If the legislature fails, just refuses to deal with the bill, then the legislature will be the one that carries the blame for the pipeline not being built, at least for the tax not being adjusted, right? So whatever the consequences of inaction are, it'll be on the House because the governor has done as much as he can do to encourage the House to do their job, right? He's got to say about the defined benefits bill. It got vetoed. That's how the system works, right? The legislature can say they want it, and the governor can say he doesn't want it. And if there's not enough votes, then that's how the system works, right? But if the legislature is going to say, well, because you vetoed our defined benefits bill, we're not going to hear your other bill. Okay, that's not how the system works. That's not how it's supposed to work. Okay, that is dysfunction. It is immaturity. It is unprofessional. You should at least debate it and vote on it. And if you don't got the votes to pass it, then you don't have the votes to pass it. But you should at least have an up or down vote. If you can't send the governor something, then you can't send him something. That's legitimate. The legislature could choose to not send him something. But if the leaders are just going to not bring anything forward and they're not going to hold the debate, Senate Resources isn't going to debate it, House Resources isn't going to debate it, finance teams are not going to debate it. If that's not going to happen, then shame on the legislature because they're just, playing games. Okay, Rick. So what about the Senate Bill 280? What about Senate Bill 280? What about it? At the end of the regular session, Senate Bill 280 is dead. D-E-A-D, dead. The only bill that's going to exist after the regular session is the bill that the governor brings forward on the call. And he brought forward the House bill, the House version. So at any point in time, the governor can add bills to the call. So here's the politician, right? So the politician says, okay, the legislature is filled with people who are immature and unprofessional. They don't want their feelings are hurt because I vetoed their defined benefits bill. And so they're just going to try to be obstinate and not deal with the pipeline bill. Okay. So I recognize that you all are going to throw a fit. And so I can add the defined benefits bill back to the call, or add it to the call. So then the legislature would be able to pass the defined benefits bill again and the pipeline bill for the first time during the special session. Okay. The governor could do that, or any other bill that he wants to bring forward that the legislature would take kindly to him, allowing them to pass something that, like I was going to use the election bill that he vetoed and then put back, submitted back to the legislature, something like that. We can throw something out there that you actually want. Well, you want your election bill? Okay, we'll put that on the call and you can work on that and I'll sign that election bill. We'll do a quid pro quo with that. That's a possibility. So Senate Bill 280, unless they pass it tonight, which is not a chance, it's dead. All right, Miguel. Appreciate you stepping forward. Miguel says he's running for the Borough Assembly in the Interior. And it all starts at the local level. That's exactly right. Thanks for stepping up. This is for sure and for certain, Craig. The legislators need better time management skills. Time management, yes. Prioritization, yes. Remember, the statute that the public adopted, right? Voters adopted a statute that said the session's only supposed to be 90 days through an initiative, right? They collected the signatures, put it on the ballot. Voters voted in November and said, yep, we want our session to be 90 days, get it done. And the legislature just ignores that. Except in 2020, we didn't ignore it. We got done. We got our budget passed. We got a few bills passed. I think we had a few bills passed. Not many, if any. And then we were done within 90 days. You know why? If you remember back to 2020 and how crazy that was, we all thought we were going to die. Well, some people did. Some people were really, really fearful that they were going to die. I didn't want to die, but I'm not fearful. So let's conduct our business. Anyway, the legislature, when it has proper motivation, can get done in 90 days. It can actually get its job done pretty quickly. Okay, question from Miguel. Do you think that they can do a dividend like the PFD on oil so we can get a dividend without the legislature having access to it on the natural gas? Okay. So I'm just thinking out loud here. The royalties from gas extraction are already being paid to the state. So it's already going into the permanent fund. Whether it's oil or whether it's gas, there's already a royalty requirement. What is it? 12.5% royalty requirement that goes into the permanent fund. So I'm not sure. I mean, we don't have a PFD based on oil throughput and taps or what's being pumped out of the ground. The PFD is not connected to increase or decrease in resource development. It is, with an increase in resource development, you would have more money put into the permanent fund, and then over the averaging that happens and the investments that happen, then you would see your PFD improve. But I don't think that the legislature would entertain an idea of having a PFD based on gas throughput. And I don't know that I would support something like that. I mean, think about it. If you're going to pay a dividend, if the state's going to collect money and pay a dividend based on the throughput of the gas, well, then that's just an additional cost that you and I are going to pay in higher gas costs. So why would we do that? I mean, I guess if you're looking at exporting gas and the higher costs are also borne by some other citizen in another country, then our dividend would be based on that, and they're paying for our dividend, I guess. But the dividend's based on the permanent fund, not on the resource that gets pulled out. The resource that gets pulled out of the grounds already has a royalty paid to the permanent fund, and that's that. If I understand your question correctly. Yes, true statement. All bills die when the session ends, even 381. House Bill 381 dies as well, but House Bill 381 will live again. It will be resurrected because the governor has put it on the call for the special session. Yes, we have a state cabbage now. We are state vegetable, and it is the cabbage. We made sure that we did that in this legislature. Craig says it may be revived on day one of the special session only if the legislature approves a resolution that gets 2/3 in each body, 27 votes in the House. So I guess I would have to look that up, to be perfectly blunt. The governor can put something on the call that this is what you're going to discuss. That doesn't mean the legislature takes it up. So I would have to double check that. I don't know that to be true, but you're welcome, Deshana. I'm glad you like the bill overview. There's a lot of information there. I can send you an email with the if you request it, producer at Oversight Live, I can send you the Excel file. It's only current as of the time that I pulled it. But you're welcome to look at it. It's nothing fancy. Harold, I think both. I know that the operating budget passed. I don't know about the capital budget. I think it did. We can look really quick and see if you want to take the time. Let me just pop over here to the legislative website. Oh, there it is. Oh, I don't remember what the bill number is for. Let's just do. I can find it. So I don't remember what the capital budget. Let's do this. All bills, Control F, capital. HB 264. Okay. Some dead air there. What I was doing was trying to research real quick the capital budget bill number. So what I'm looking at here, I guess I need to share this tab instead. What I'm looking at here is the website telling us the capital. Referred to finance. That doesn't make sense. Capital budgets normally starts in the Senate, I believe. So that can't be right. Okay, bear with me. Senate Bill 57. There we go. That's 2025. Erg. there. Senate Bill 214. We're going to get there one of these times. Senate Bill 214. Okay, it is one of those bills that is in the Senate concurred House amendment. Let's scroll down here to the bottom, blow that up a little bit so you can see what I'm. Okay, so this is how you find it. It is awaiting transmittal to the governor. There you go, Harold. I got you your answer for you. Both bodies have signed or approved the capital budget, and it is awaiting transmittal to the governor. Okay. That's that for that. What's going on over here in the Senate? Well, that doesn't make sense. Recess to the call of a chair. They're all still sitting there. I think that's probably a old. Let's find out what's going on.
That brings the title change, SCR 36,
Yeah.
before the Senate on final passage.
Change there.
Title change is before you. Senators may proceed to vote.
What are they voting on here? SCR 36.
Thank you. Will the Secretary
Passage.
close the roll? Do any senators wish to
Okay,
change
so
their
they're wanting
vote?
to suspend the
Will the
rules
Secretary announce
for
it?
House Bill 14.
20
That's what
yeas,
this
0 nays.
concurrent
So by a vote
resolution
of
is.
20 yeas to 0 nays, SCR 36, title change has passed the Senate. Madam Majority Leader.
Mr. President, now I suggest I move that we recess to call of the chair.
Thank you. Without objection, we will recess to a call of the chair.
Okay, now it's official. They've recessed to the call of the chair. Okay. Goody. So now they got. I'll predict that not all of the bills that are hanging out there, the Senate is going to take up and pass, and they will just die. I will predict that is what's going to happen. That is Speaker Edgman there. I bet you that the House signee died. I bet they're done. Okay, what else do you guys have to say here? Harold asks, can they simply adjourn? They cannot adjourn without passing the budget because they're constitutionally required to pass the budget. But once the budget is passed, they do not have to pass, take up, or address any of the other bills that are sitting before them. So yes, they can simply adjourn. And the motion that they make is, I move, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, I move to adjourn sine die. And that means finito, complete, done, we're not coming back. So that is a possibility that they could just come back from recess and adjourn. Willie says he hears that Senator Hoffman is very unhappy with Speaker Edgman. You know, I'm not entirely sure why that would be the case, other than how they've conducted business in the House and dumped everything in the Senate. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, Deshane is asking a question concerning the gas pipeline. Are there any other plays you see from the Fed side? Did you hear Burgum's recent comments at the energy conference? No, I did not hear his comments. I would like to pull the comments. I would like to pull some relevant content from that if it was broadcast. Last year, the energy conference was recorded and broadcast. And so if that is the case this year, I have not had the time to go look at it. Perhaps tomorrow we'll bring that forward and listen to some of that on Oversight Live, because it probably is going to be pertinent to hear what they have to say. And I have not heard what they had to say, so that will be good. Too busy farming today. So what can the feds do? Well, President Trump has already signed some executive orders giving the bureaucracy more latitude to do what it can in spending money and forming contracts and things like that. I think Congress would probably have to act, just my gut here, Congress would probably have to act in order to federalize the project. And if that's what's in store, meaning the state cannot the state can't figure it out, right? The state is incapable of doing what's necessary for the project to move forward. And President Trump decides, well, it's important enough for national security that we need to have this pipeline. And so the federal government's going to take it over. They're going to fund it. They're going to, whatever, they'll manage it, whatever. If they nationalize it, that might be a possibility, but I believe that would need an act of Congress. So good luck with that. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. Having not heard what Burgum said, I don't know whether I'm way off in left field here or whether there's some other options. But the other options we've talked about before, and they have to do with funding. There's some additional pools of money that are there that the federal government would be able to tap into for loans and things like that, but and for underwriting loans. But I don't think that they've got authority to fork out 40 or 50 or 60 billion dollars to build a pipeline. I don't think that they have that. Do I think Giesel knows what a Gantt chart is? I know she's probably seen one. Let's see. It's true. Craig, help me, man. I did not follow along with the conversation. What is true? It's on it's on X, so it must be true. Okay. Rick asks, is there any news on the railroad spur and West Sioux Access Road? Kevin McCabe is the one to ask for that. I don't know. I have not heard. And looking through the bills that we looked through, it didn't jump out at me. We can review them again. I don't think there's anything moving with that. Thank you, Kevin, for bringing up 214. I didn't see your chat. Miguel asks, are we getting any PFD at all? Is the question. Chris Bears, if we will be taxed on a good portion of it. So we are getting a PFD. It's a $1,000 PFD, if I'm not mistaken. Kevin, you can correct me. It is a $1,000 PFD with a $200 energy payment that comes with it. So a total of $1,200 will show up in your bank account. 1,000 of it reported as income, and then probably the 200 energy rebate as not income. I'm guessing that's going to be the case because that's how it was before. So yes, we are getting a dividend. Craig asks, how high is the Juneau alcohol consumption tonight? Probably significant, especially when people are probably not getting on an airplane to go home because you got a special session coming up. So Kevin says, look what Canada did with Kitimat. We have a couple of weeks to get a gas line bill done. Yeah, exactly. I am very hopeful that the legislature will do its due diligence on this bill and not throw a fit in a tantrum like I'm expecting them to do. Miguel says that Senator Murkowski wasn't too happy. Rumor has it at the energy conference. I don't know. Haven't heard that rumor. Kevin's attempting to answer the question asked earlier. The feds can take the gas line project over completely under order of the president, just put out a month ago, or they can buy an equity stake. Okay. Under the Trump Act, the act that Trump signed, I think those are executive orders or something. They can federalize the whole thing. They did it during World War II with a Sutton coal mine and a gold mine in the valley. All right. Well, I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but I guess the risk then falls on the federal government and they can just print money. So we get a pipeline with printed money and it just goes to the debt and future generations will pay for it. As long as my gas bill's low, what do I care, right? That's /sarcasm. Good to know. Thanks, Deshana, for participating here. Kevin confirms here. We're taxed on the $1,000 PFD, but the energy payment is not taxable. $100, huh? Okay. Did you send me a personal text, Kevin? You said read my text. I guess I should look over on my other device here. Thanks. Very nice. Kevin sent me a nice, beautiful picture of his mug with Oversight Live on the screen behind him. That's pretty classy. All right. Yeah, that's what I thought. $200 energy. $1,000. $1,000 PFD, $200 energy. Okay. They could have given us a $200 dividend and $1,000 energy relief. Yeah, they could have. You know, if I suspect, just thinking out loud here, I suspect that if Alaska was to do that and we were to just, try to game the IRS, I say it's not a PFD anymore, it's an energy rebate. Look at how costly things are. We're not giving PFDs anymore. We can't afford to do that, but we can give energy rebates. I think the IRS would probably change the rules. I just suspect that they would carve out energy rebates from the state of Alaska and tax those. Anyway, that's what government does. It finds money any way that it can. Chris Bears says, Kevin McCabe ice cream cone is my favorite because you said something about going and buying ice cream. You could buy an ice cream cone. Make it a self-licking ice cream cone like our government bureaucracy is. What is the actual cost to process the $200 rebate administratively? Good question for a committee. I don't have an answer to that particular question. I would guess that there's labor. Of course, there's labor put into it. I don't know what the cost is. Kevin, you know what the cost is to produce the energy rebate? Probably de minimis. It's probably minimal. Although if they have to mail out physical checks, that can actually get kind of expensive. But I doubt that it's very expensive. All right, we're officially recessed on gavel. And if I back off here, what I'll find out is that the floor session. I don't know, Kevin. Did you guys did you sine die? I was about to pull up the floor session and find out if they sine died, which I guess I can do since they're recessed. I'll show you how to. Here is the floor session, and then we fast forwarded all the way to the end.
Changes made by the other body.
I don't want to hear you. I just want to get to the end.
Community Regional Affairs, thus adopting Senate Committee Substitute for Sponsor Substitute for House Bill 13. State Affairs, members may proceed to vote.
So this should be near the last thing that they're going to take up here.
Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
32 yeas, 7 nays.
By a vote of 32 yeas to 7 nays, the House has agreed with the changes to House Bill 13.
Thanks, Kevin.
We do have a title change resolution.
Mr. Speaker, I move and ask unanimous consent that Senate Concurrent Resolution 14, the title change resolution for House Bill 13, be taken up as a special order of business.
So this is previously recorded. This is the tail end of the House floor session today.
This change, the adoption of the title change, we've done that previously. Apparently that's still in effect. So that brings us to the work that we have before the body. And at this time, we will stand at ease to the call of the chair.
Okay, that's that. All right. So Kevin was being very kind here and telling he texted me personally and said there will be a move to get Senate Bill 180 back. Sorry, is that House Bill 180? I forget. Anyway, get 180 back in play tonight. Also tomorrow we will gavel in at 10. And vote on a joint resolution to suspend rules so we don't have to meet every 3 days and then go home. Bill will be sent to finance. They will come back in 10 days or so to work on the gas line bill. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Okay. We'll go back to the Senate here and see if well, they're recessed. It'll be a while before they come back. Okay. Maybe they're not recessed. This is still live. I don't get it. Well, HB 180, thanks, Lynn. Yeah. So you've got 2 House bills dealing with the gas line, and you've got 1 Senate bill that was gieseled. Okay. So let's jump back over and take another double look at our, oh, I told you that I was going to do something. I'm going to leave this up for a second. I told you that I was going to show you how you can find your own. Okay. If you jump over to the website and you go to bills, all introduced. Okay. This pulls up all of the bills introduced for the legislative session, right? So this is where you get your mass data. We're at House Bill 391 House bills. And then you've got, Senate Bill 290. So 290 Senate bills for this legislative session, legislature. That's both sessions. All right. And so you can go through here and you can see that, for example, Senate Bill 239, motor vehicle registration by Senator Tilton, its status as of today, the Senate concurred with the House amendments. So if it was getting sent to the governor, we would know. We can click on 239 and find out. So here's 239, just for an example. We go down here, and it's awaiting transmittal to the governor. Okay. So if I went to my 239 on my spreadsheet, and I'll just show you here and see what transmit to governor. Oh, governor next. Okay, that was part of the sorry, clicking, reading, and talking all at the same time. Yeah, okay. So Senate Bill 239, I showed you earlier, was not in the waiting to go to the governor tab of the Excel document because it had not been done yet. So now it has been done. So I don't have an easy way to update that right now to show you. Anyway, what you can do is you go to bills, and then passed legislation. That's PASSED, not past as in history. Go to past legislation, and this will take you to the website that shows you where the legislation that has been passed. So passed both houses, passed either session. If you want to look at just this session, then click on this link, and that'll order this to be only for the second session. And then now you've got all of the bills that are passed by one or both bodies. So Kevin is calling. Hey, you're live on the air. What's going on, Representative McCabe?
The Senate just signed, he died, so
Did the-
we're going to go back in momentarily, probably.
Okay. So you're all going to be done.
Yeah, well, we have a few more bills, I think, of theirs that are going to be passed over, and then we'll be done as well. So uneventful, although this SB 180 might be.
All right. All right. Thanks. We'll see you later.
Chair, I move and ask unanimous consent to be excused from a call of the Senate from May 27th a.m. plain time to June 22nd p.m. plain time for personal business as I take my father to Paris.
Without objection, so ordered. Senator Tobin. Additional unfinished business. Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move and ask unanimous consent that I be excused from a call of the Senate June 7th through June 16th for state business.
7 to the 16th. Without objection, Senator Claymont.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move and ask to be excused from the call of Senate for June 22nd through June 24th for personal and estate business.
22nd to 24th. Without objection, Senator Claymont. Any additional unfinished business at this time? And moving on to committee announcements. Surely there are none. What about other announcements? Moving on to special orders. Are there special orders?
Nobody wants to talk.
Senator Hoffman.
Mr. President, on me and my wife's 54th anniversary, I move and ask unanimous. I move that the Senate of the 34th Legislature adjourn. Sine die.
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Hearing no objection, the Senate of the 34th Alaska Legislature is adjourned. Sine die.
There it is. Okay. So that is done for the, well, I got to turn this off in my my head here. You can't see it, but I can hear it still. All right. So the House is going to have to come back in. It's not being shown on the gavel, and it's probably not worth showing here anyway. Okay. So both bodies are sine die. The list that we saw, many of the bills that I showed you earlier did not get processed by the legislature. And we can go back to the website, and any of these that are, oh, you can't see that yet. There you go. Any of these bills that are listed here as governor next means it's going to the governor. If it's status other than that, it means that it's probably not going. Okay. Again, this is the list of bills that were passed, right? Passed both legislatures, both houses, and only the second session. So if it doesn't say it's already law, or it doesn't say it's transmitted to the governor, or where's the other one where it's awaiting transfer to the governor next? If it doesn't say that, it's probably dead. Just because you've got concurrent may not mean that it's so we can check this HB 280. And you just scroll to the bottom here, and it's awaiting transmittal to the governor. Okay, so you're going to need to go to each one of these. If you care about the bill and you want to know whether it is going to become law, then go ahead and click on the bill. For example, HB 314. This is engineers, surveyors, interior design. And that's awaiting transmittal to the governor, right? Even though here it just says House concurs amendment. Okay, so likely, as I'm looking this, and I'm just changing my opinion here, if it is saying that both the bodies have concurred, then it is highly likely that it is going to be transmitted to the governor. What I'm sensing here and what I'm reading. Okay. So again, you can go to the website and pull up bills, and then scroll down to past legislation, and that'll get you to this here that tells you which bills are passed. And once you click on the bill itself, you can go to the bottom and find out if it's waiting to be transmitted to the governor. If it is, then that means it's done, and it was passed by the legislature. Now it's up to the governor. And eventually you can come here and look at what the governor has vetoed. Okay. Whoops. Go to bills, and then governor's vetoes. That will pull up the vetoed bills. So partially vetoed bills are generally your budget documents that he uses a line item veto. Vetoed bills lists all of the bills that are vetoed, and I would imagine this will grow as he vetoes bills that are coming from the legislature, and you'll be able to see that they show up there. Okay, so that that's what we've got for tonight. It appears, if we are correct, if Representative McCabe is correct, which I have no doubt that this is the truth, the legislature is going to take a couple weeks to lick their wounds and go home. The special session is open, so as of tomorrow, the legislators will not be able to raise funds for re-election. So if you are not an incumbent and you are running for a House or Senate seat, your incumbent will not be able to raise money for the next 30 days. And Kevin is calling to check in here. Let's see what Kevin has to say. All right, Kevin.
Hey, we aren't done yet, Ben. We still have to go back in. So.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to sine die.
No, we have to go back in. I said the Senate was going to sine die. We are going back in.
Oh, okay. Well, I will look and see if the gavel is going to cover it. Right now, they don't have anything listed for a House session.
Yeah, the bells haven't rung yet, so I don't know how long it's going to be, but we have things to do.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kevin, for the update. Appreciate it.
All right. See ya.
See ya. All right. So looks like the House probably has some housekeeping to do with the bills that the Senate passed, and anything that was concurred and comes back to the House, then they have to process it and then send it on to the governor is my guess. Oh, yeah, let me back this up. Yeah, there's no House listed, but hold that. There is a Senate ability.
Elections bill if you vote short. But we worked hard on those. We passed what we think were bipartisan fair bills, and it's for a future legislator to take them up again.
It was a huge success getting that defined benefit bill through both bodies. That was a huge success. I mean, for me, it was 4 years of work.
Stedman's like,
so great to be able to
no,
work
not so
with
much.
Representative Kopp. He is, of course, a representative in my district, but that was a huge success, and we will be right at it again next year.
Looking ahead to the special session, I'm curious to what extent you guys feel like you're going to find a resolution to the gas line property tax issue. Is there room for the House is it possible for the Senate and the House and the governor to agree on a bill?
It is possible, and we intend to work hard on it. We are meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to begin the special session, and we'll move that. The bill will go up to Senate Finance. And Senator Sim, would you comment on what the expectations are there?
Yeah, we're planning on starting at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, and most likely it'll be with our consultants. We're still putting that package together. We got to, we at Senate Finance haven't spent much time on that issue because we were, didn't have the bill until a few days ago. And so there's a lot of background to be filled in and stuff, but it'll be pretty action packed. And we're going to try to come up with a compromise bill to move that project forward, something that works for the legislature, works for the governor, and works for the boroughs involved in the rest of the state. So
Did you say 9 a.m. on Wednesday? Is that a week from today?
Yes.
Okay. What are you going to do after you gavel in tomorrow? Is that everybody goes home for a week, or?
We're not. We're going to let folks go home. Yes. Yeah. I'm staying around, but some folks are going home, and then be back in time for the meetings at Finance Committee.
But James, we have already worked with the finance team. Senator Willikowski and I, of course, presented the bill that we had worked through resources, but the staff has collaborated and the Senate resources staff has been sharing with the finance staff. I do think the House and the Senate can definitely come to collaboration on the gas pipeline bill. Whether it'll be interesting to see if we can agree with this and find a match with the governor's requirements.
Yeah,
And we do hope that the administration will be involved and be there at the table and in the audience when we ask questions, and they'll answer them fairly. And we need to work together with the governor if we're going to get through it. And actually, Senator Giesel touched on a very good point. The Senate majority and the House majority have worked extremely well together. We've been on the same page through this entire 2 years, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the speaker, who I worked with almost on a daily basis, and really attempt to help find common ground.
I was just going to mention that the collaboration with the staff on the gas line bill was already taking place today. They had their first major huddle, bringing everybody together. The resource committee work has been summarized somewhat in some documents, and they're getting that to staff, so that the gears are already turning.
How do you expect the tone or the communication with the governor to be different in regards to the pipeline during the special session as opposed to regular session?
Well, I think it'll be a lot different because it's a single subject. There's nothing else on the deck. There's no, there's very few moving parts, and it'll be a concentration on just that. And he plans on being around as much as he possibly can. He'll be out of town, he said, from time to time, but he's going to try to be here and assist us in getting the information we need through his departments and through his job owning ability with Glen Farm.
I did want to pull back a little bit from gas pipeline to the session in general. With the benefit of hindsight now, is there anything, what do you wish you had done differently during this past 2 years?
Well, I wish we had gotten the governor's bill earlier, so we've been working on it at the first of session.
Blame the governor.
It didn't arrive until March sometime.
March 20th.
And that was a little hard. So if we had gotten it earlier, I don't know what we would have done anything better. We would have launched into it quicker, I suppose, if we had gotten his bill.
It's extremely hard to pass a major bill of any type, but in particular a gas or oil bill. It's extremely hard to pass one. And in 20 years, in decades here, you need the full, you need the administration working completely with you. And I understood with the ACEs and the G, and a number of us were here during those. The Department of Revenue had 25 people that would meet every morning and go out and talk to legislators. You had commissioners, you had deputy commissioners, you had tax directors asking you what sort of information you needed, what sort of analysis did you need, what sort of questions did you have. We've had none of that in this process. I haven't had a single visit to my office from a commissioner, a deputy commissioner, a tax director. I don't even think they have a tax director now. I don't even think they have a number of deputy commissioners. I don't even think they have a revenue commissioner who is completely disengaged.
Let me redirect that question a little bit then. At the end of 2025 session,
what about condensate?
Everybody was expecting.
How much time did you take up talking about condensate that has nothing to do with the tax bill?
Enormously difficult. Then the Iran war comes along. It seems like two halves. How much has the war changed things in this building?
Oh, enormously. I mean, we're all sorry that it took a war to do that, but we are going to be doing much better. Maybe Senator, maybe you can talk about that, Senator Stebbins, what the expectations are and revenue.
All right. Well, it shifted substantially because in the beginning we were worried about just keeping the dividend alive and getting a balanced budget and talking about how long our CBR is going to last. So, and then within a period of a couple of months, things totally changed, and the revenue forecast, as you know, jumped up, and we moved our targets up, and that allowed us to, add a little bit extra to the dividend to $1,200 total, and fairly aggressively go after the deferred maintenance that's been backing up on us for several years. And with a focused concentration on that in K-12 in particular in the university, a little bit for job creation, you know, because we're hoping to get a gas line and stuff. And, you know, then we started talking about saving the excess money that comes in, put it in the CBR. We're probably going to have a big supplemental next year, the way things have been going. But build a CBR a little bit, because the backside of this war, we expect oil will be a little sticky coming down, but all forecasts are for it to come back down into that 60 range again. And, you know, so we want to be prepared for that.
Just to be very clear to Senator Stedman, Giesel, and Wilkowski, you're all, in fact, running for re-election, correct?
We're not allowed to talk about elections while we're in state business, Jeff.
I want to ask about organization next year, how that's looking.
A little early for that. I mean, I've been asked what authority I have. I have none, but on next year's organization. But it is early. Once we know who's been elected, then organization will start to take place. But it'll take a long time, and it's just simply too early to talk about it right now.
Can I ask that question differently? You know, you said that you worked really well with the House majority. This was a bipartisan caucus. Do you hope that that kind of bipartisan caucus can reconstitute itself next session?
I hope so. Looking at who's running and who's staying and who will be possibly elected, I believe there will be a bipartisan Senate next year. I don't know what happens in the House. I mean, that's it's easy to switch over there. But I believe there will be a bipartisan Senate. And do you think so, Senator Wilkowski? I mean, it appears that has worked well.
I think so.
Can I ask about revenue measures? There were a couple efforts throughout the session and last year.
I have to pause for a second. Senator Wilkowski doesn't have enough Democrats to have a Democrat majority. So he's like, yeah, you tell me. Are we going to have a bipartisan? They don't have the numbers. They don't have enough people to be a majority. They can only be a majority when they've got Republicans giving them the majority.
Ad revenues, and Senator Wilcox particularly has been working on that.
Yeah, we passed a revenue measure today. It was a small amount. I think next year is going to be a tough session. Next year will be a very, very difficult session, because when the war in Iran ends and oil goes back down to $50, $60, $70, we are right back to a $2 billion a year structural deficit. And there is no avoiding that. We're getting to the end of the year. Our earnings reserve is we just can't sustain these continued draws the way they are. We're getting to a point where the constitutional budget reserve can't sustain the draws that we've had. So the next couple of years are going to be rough years.
And that's where the gas pipeline comes in, right? We certainly have the AVT, the alternative volumetric tax. But when we built TAPS and we had those thousands of workers come in, Glenn Farn says 12,000 workers will be coming in. We had an income tax, we had an education tax. So that created revenue for the state to support itself during this huge influx of people and industrial activity. We don't have that now. Maybe we need to address that.
Well, the other concern is with the gas line, and this is something we talked about, I'm sure the Finance Committee will talk about, is the lease expenditures for certainly gas production wells and gas feeder lines are deductible on our oil taxes. So that's going to be a hit. We've heard of tens to hundreds of millions of dollars. The continued development in NPRA is more hits of hundreds of millions of dollars potentially. So we have all this development going on in the North Slope, and it is actually really going to be a big negative on our fiscal plan going forward.
I think the industry wants to come to the table and have this conversation, because when we look at our oil basin, irrespective of the gas line, it looks like there's going to be a continued expansion and a lot of expenditures, and oil volume is going to go up, and there's a likelihood our revenue will go down, and that's not going to be fun to try to explain to the public. And that's in that price range of the $60, $70, not at 120. So there is an interest in those discussions from the industry and the state. So I think you're going to see that next winter moving along.
None of you have ever been here for a lame duck. The last one was Tony Knowles in 2002. So I'm wondering what that's been like. You mentioned there's not been a lot of engagement. I think a lot of people have left, and it's hard to hire people with only a little bit of time
Well,
left.
that's true. I was here when Tony Knowles was governor. My first 2 years in the House, and it is true that the lame duck governor has problems hiring people. Who's going to take a job, an administration who leaves their current job and order to take a job for 7 months or 6 months, 7 or 8 months, whatever it is. So I do sympathize with the governor there. It's going to be hard to fill these positions, but we certainly moved ahead and approved his commissioner of revenue and his health commissioner, and we approved those two folks.
Last question. Glenfarne said in a statement that they're deeply disappointed in the results of this legislature. There's been Glenfarne, the major developer. They essentially, there were 3 different mechanisms for the gas line, 2 from the governor and then Representative Kopp's amendment that we've been seeing play out for the last several days. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the results of this legislature, especially when it comes to the gas line. We aren't leaving with any tax exemptions that they say is viable for this project. And then what's your reaction to what Glenfarne is saying about the results?
Well, I think we would all agree that we're not getting the information we need from Glenfarne, and that's been the big problem.
Yeah, Glenfarne has said that we were going to final investment decision back in December. Then they said we were going to FID in January, then February. Then they filed something with FERC in March, the first week. So Glenfarne has made a lot of representations to a lot of people about this project. They said just a few weeks ago, they supported an S-corp provision in the bill. They said they supported not passing cost overruns to consumers. They completely flip-flopped on both of those things. The governor said back in October to the RDC that he would be shocked, that's his exact word, shocked if this project wasn't going to FID within a few weeks. And here we are months later. Now, it's very important for you and the public to understand, and I'm sure you all do, the pipeline can be built right now. They don't need any legislation. In fact, we were told last year by Glenfarne, they didn't need anything. We asked them specifically, what do you need? They were told repeatedly. In fact, the chairman of the AGDC said the only thing that can stop this project is the legislature getting in the way. So basically just get out of the way and we'll build the project. Then when they come before us and they ask for $1 billion in tax breaks. And so they want tax, this is all about tax breaks. This is not a gas line bill. This is a bill to push $1 billion from local communities and the state onto the industry, onto the developer, by the way, which in our hearings, we found out that once this project gets going, they're making profits of about $5 billion per year on an equity investment of around $13.9 billion. That's an incredible rate of return. And they want $1 billion a year from the people of Alaska so that they can make a $5 billion a year profit. So we're going to look at this very carefully. And by the way, best case scenario, according to the Department of Revenue, the price of gas to consumers in South Central, best case scenario, no cost overruns, $46 billion project, which we all know it's not, is $22.96, which is double what they're currently paying right now, phase 1.
So let me just
So Will, let me also add you asked about Glenfarne being disappointed. You know, the projects they've completed have been in South America. None of their US projects have gone to FID. They've got 2 other projects in Texas that still haven't gotten there. They aren't used to working with a government entity that owns the resource. And so they did not expect this kind of engagement and concern that the returns will go to Alaskans. So I think that's why they're disappointed. They had unrealistic expectations.
Senator Stebbin, you had a comment?
Yeah, just briefly, you asked about the process. Right? What you need to have come out of the building and signed by the governors, something with some stability and transparency. So all parties know what the playing field is. What was going on in the building the last few days would not lead to that. I don't think they could get that project underwritten because the legislature, if they bypass the finance committee, that product would have no stability whatsoever. In fact, they'd probably get a backlash coming out of the legislature. So my recommendation to them is they play a square game because the finance committee in the Senate is not going to mess around.
That's a very good point. And, in the end, there's that whole saying about a pig in a poke, buying a pig in a poke. That's the problem we're facing. I mean, the farmer would be buying a pig, but in a bag, you never know, you never see the pig, you never know how healthy it was. And that's what we're being asked to do. Buy a pig in a poke. We've got to see the pig. We've got to know the details. And that's what I think you'll be seeing in our finance committee this coming special session.
We might have to put some lipstick on it.
Lipstick on the pig. Okay.
One more from Chris.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask further on education. You mentioned it was a success of the session, but at the same time, schools are facing severe deficits and unprecedented number of schools closing, 11 by my count this year. And can you speak to that and kind of what school districts are going through and with what has passed this session?
Yeah, it's been brutal, what's happening with school districts. And last year, after 2 failed negotiations with the governor, where the governor agreed to support 2 different bills and then ended up vetoing the one bill that he said he would support. We finally passed it. He then vetoed the appropriation for it. This has been probably the most anti-education governor in the history of our state. And so it's been a fight. It's been a fight to just tread water for our schools. I've had 3 schools on the closure list just in the last go round. I had more schools in the closure list before that. And so it's been an absolute battle. And then after all that fight, we ended up with a $20 increase over the previous year, a $20 increase. So people wonder why schools are closing, because we haven't kept pace with inflation. And so, but part of it's revenue. I mean, a huge part of it's revenue. We've got to figure out, we've got to stabilize our revenue going forward. It's going to be tough conversations going forward.
Let me close by saying what I should have said earlier is how fortunate I have been to have the leadership team that I do have. The 3 senators here, along with Senator Hoffman, along with Senator Jerry Gray Jackson, and Senator Merrick. They've been just tremendous, always there, always working hard. Everyone has their own knowledge, their own experience, and their own desires out of this, but it's been just tremendous working with them. And thank you for what you have done. Thanks so much.
That's interesting. I couldn't help myself a couple times, and I had to speak up. I needed to stay quiet. I'm going to come back to this press conference because I'm going to do my best to bring this back up again. Price of gas is not where he says it's going to be. Oh my gosh. There's just so many things that I want to say. I'm going to save them for another day. So we just heard the press conference from the Senate majority, who may or may not be the Senate majority after the election. So we'll see what happens. The audacity of people to stand in front of the people, in front of the press and in front of the people and say, well, we did our absolute best. And Senate Resources did our absolute best. And all you have to do is go watch the recordings. You just have to go watch the recordings to tell whether they're telling the truth or not. I mean, an entire meeting talking about condensate that has nothing to do with the tax of the pipeline. Here's what the legislature's got to have to figure out. You created AGDC. AGDC gave the project to a private developer. If you don't want this private developer to develop it, then just say so. And we'll move on to the next plan. You find somebody else to build it yourself, whatever, right? But let's stop having this drag Glen Farm through the mud piece of this, and they need to be telling us, here's your option. You want a pipeline. You, the legislature, Alaskans, want a pipeline. Okay? Build it yourself or hire somebody else to build it. Those are your options. Build it yourself, hire somebody else to build it. 10 years, more than 10 years, we've never been able to find somebody to build it. Now we've got Glen Farm says, I'll build it. And now we say, well, Glen Farm is going to make too much profit. Okay. Do you want a pipeline or not? Why does it matter how much Glen Farm is going to make in profit? Do you get a pipeline? You want a pipeline. You put it in law, you created AGDC, you spent hundreds of millions of dollars on permitting to get the permit, all the permits in line so that somebody, you can hand a permitted project to somebody. Look at what we did. We permitted this project. Will you please build it for us? Okay, not you. You're going to require too much profit. We can't do that. Let's go to the next guy. Who's the next guy? Crickets? Like, there isn't a next guy. There's not a lineup of people or companies wanting to build the project. So tell Glenfarne to go pound sand. Tell them we don't want you to make profit, and we're tired of you. Go away. And then we don't have a pipeline. We don't have somebody building a pipeline. Now you go back to the square one and find somebody to build your pipeline. Otherwise, you look at Glenfarne and you say, okay, you're going to build our pipeline? Prove it. Prove that you got the contracts. Prove that you got the money. Prove it. Oh, you need tax abatement? Okay. We'll give you tax abatement. We'll get a pipeline. That's what needs to happen. Otherwise, you just give up on a pipeline. Find somebody else to build it. You've got one company here that says they can do it, and they say they can bring the money together. So help them do it, or find somebody else. This arguing over whether Glenfarne is going to make more profit than what you want to have them make, and they're going to get too much tax break. It's all complete socialist nonsense. Do you want a pipeline? Do you have somebody to build it? Glenfarne leaves. Yes, I want a pipeline. I have nobody to build it. We're back to square one. The legislature has completely lost its mind. I don't say the legislature. These leaders have completely lost their mind. They don't even know what they're talking about. You want to find the right tax structure? Then you sit down with Glenfarne, and you sit down with the governor, and you sit down with the legislature, the finance committee, and you this works for Glenfarne, this works for the governor, or works for the legislature. If you come back and say the Glenfarne says, no, this isn't going to work, then your option is to say, Glenfarne, go away. We'll find somebody else, because this is our bottom line. We need X dollars of revenue from this project. If you're not going to give us X number of dollars for revenue, we'll find somebody else to build the pipeline. That's your play. That's your play. Keep beating up on Glenfarne all you want. You don't have some. After Glenfarne gets beat up by this legislature, is there any company that's going to come in and say, yeah, sign me up. I want some of that. They're like, this is absurd. It's absurd. I've never built a pipeline, and I can tell that this is absurd. Anyway. Deep breath. Session is over. KTOO in Gavel, Alaska, never brought the House floor session back online. So we weren't able to watch the end of the floor session, but we know that it is occurring, and that it's going to occur. So they'll be done. You heard not unusual for some of the key leaders to stick around when the rest of the legislature leaves. So the Senate president, maybe Bryce Edgman will stick around as the speaker. Somebody's got to, be the leader. Positionally, they got to be there. And then next week, Senate Finance is going to take over with the conversation with Glenfarne. So we'll be here to watch what's going on and help you understand what's going on. We'll do our best. I wouldn't expect anything much to come from the legislature between now and next Wednesday. If that's indeed what ends up happening, I'll keep my ears open, and we'll see what happens. But let me check in here with you all. I saw some text coming in while I was on my rant. Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. Your hidden tax that you paid is $2,800. each one of you, you and your kids, whoever qualifies for a dividend, you coughed up $2,800 each. You do the math if you're a family of 4 or 5, right? That's your tax burden. That's what it costs to run government. You forego that money so that government can do its thing. Luckily, they didn't institute another defined benefits bill that would have taken more of your money. Be careful who you elect in November, because you heard they're bringing it back. They're going to come back. They will always come back. The unions are going to require their I call them lobbyists. Their lobbyists who have been elected, they're going to require them to push another defined benefits bill. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Shane, I'm right with you. It was a frustrating experience listening to the press conference. Okay, let me see. Any questions here? Al puts 2 and 2 together. Pig and a poke equals defined benefits. Yeah, it's interesting how they can see that one way and not the other, right? Do you all think that it's wrong for a legislator to sign an NDA in order to get information? Because if you do sign one and then you spill the beans, you're held responsible, right? Legally. But I'm a representative, right? Your representative is required to represent you. Does that mean they have to tell you everything? Like, do you think your legislator's telling you everything right now? What happens in caucus meeting? What happens in the meetings that happen behind closed doors? Are you privy to that information? You, the voter? Like, there's a whole bunch of information. There's a whole bunch of conversations and things that are happening in the legislature that aren't telegraphed. They are televised that your legislator is never going to tell you. They've got requirements within the majorities, the caucuses, that whatever we talk about in caucus doesn't come out of caucus. There's your NDA right there. Every single one of your caucus members has signed an NDA for caucus information. So what's the big deal of signing an NDA with the private company so that the company has got some understanding and some confidence that the legislature is not going to just divulge private information? Again, you ask the company to come build your pipeline for you. Help them by not sharing information that doesn't need to be shared. And then you have the information that you're claiming that they won't give you. So you think that a legislator should not sign an NDA? I signed an NDA. I signed it 2022, 2023, something like that. I had lots of conversations with AGDC. Matter of fact, just to be fully transparent, what's now probably 4 years ago, I had the initial conversation about property taxes. That's when I recognized that this is going to be an issue. What is AGDC's position on current tax law, current property tax law? What does the legislature need to start thinking about with regard to property taxes? That very question I posed to Frank Richards with AGDC years ago. Those senators said they need the governor and the Department of Revenue, and they need others to bring the question to them. And we need to have the conversation. Bring the bill to us so that we can have the conversation. I mean, oh man, the entitlement There's just oozing from those people it's sickening. They can ask the same damn question themselves. They could have asked that question because they want a pipeline, right? They want the pipeline. Let's get it here as quickly as possible. Oh, what are we going to have to do with taxes? They could have asked it in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. You don't even have somebody. What could we do with our property taxes to incentivize somebody to come along, a private company, because we didn't have Glen Farm then? What can we do with our property taxes to incentivize somebody to come build the pipeline? We still haven't identified anybody. 2023, 2024, Glen Farm shows up in 2025. All of those senators are still, they were elected then. They could have had the conversation about pipelines then, or pipeline taxes, property taxes then. Could have asked their consultants, what do our property taxes need to be competitive in the industry? For somebody to maybe the question should have been, is our property tax structure that we have preventing a private company from coming in and wanting to build the pipeline? What does it need to look like? What does the state's stance need to look like on taxation in order to incentivize or attract somebody to come in and build the pipeline? None of those people standing there in that press conference are asking those questions or thinking of those terms. They're not wanting to build a pipeline 2 or 3 years ago. They're not thinking about that. It's not a priority for them. They'll sure blame the governor, and they'll sure blame Glen Farm now, lying through their teeth. They don't even want a pipeline. They're finding excuses not to. Lynn says her sense is that people are getting sick of this day, and they are watching more closely. I hope that the thing that motivates people, that this is the thing that motivates people. Yeah. I mean, we came really close to having a defined benefits quid pro quo with some poor gas line tax bill, right? Yeah. I'm happy that they spoke like this in the press conference, because it's now on the record. Now I have a copy of it. KTOO can get rid of it, whatever. I now have a copy of it. And I want to bring that back because we can put side by side the questions and the narrative of what was happening in Senate Resources. We can put a calendared play-by-play of what occurred in each one of the meetings. You want a pipeline, you say you did your due diligence, and this is what you wasted your time with. You needed the bill before March, and the time that you did have, this is what you spent it on. Like, very frustrating. Okay, let's see. The House is still waiting, huh? Oh, that was a few minutes ago. Oh, yeah. So I figured that's the case. As soon as the Senate is done with their stuff on the floor, the bills that they pass, all of the staff behind the scenes has to do the process to make those bills back over to the House, and so that the House is ready. Papers and packets are in, I mean, the clerk flips through the paper and reads the paper. I mean, all that's got to be printed and put in the right place, and T's crossed, I's dotted. All of that's got to be done. So that's why the House hasn't come back in. Look at what I see on my screen. The House floor session is up and going. We're gonna And wait. All right, I'm going to mute that. So we'll follow in here for the last few minutes. Looks like some of the representatives are headed there now. They've got the bells, the chimes that happen, the chimes for the Senate and bell for the House that says, hey, everybody's got to come to the floor. All right. Yeah, that's a good point, Craig. I don't know whether that's on their agenda. I would suspect that the senators that are here now don't plan on leaving the Senate anytime soon, would be my guess. But yeah, I mean, if you signed a non-disclosure that doesn't have an end date on it, then it makes it hard for you to make money suing them later, doesn't it? Yeah, Craig, it would be different if I was sitting there. Lots would be different. Lynn, I think this is the legitimate question. Like when you back up and you just say Glenfarne is who you've got. You can disagree all you want with Glenfarne, right up until the point that Glenfarne says, you know what, we're packing our bags and we're gone. And then you're left explaining to the people why the one company that came forward and said they can build your pipeline disappeared. Why did that happen? Let's have an investigation. And now the legislature is going to explain, well, the $80 million in taxes that we were going to get, or whatever the number is, wasn't enough. We wanted $1 billion. So we held out. We're going to look for a company that's going to come in and build the pipeline so that we can get $1 billion in taxes. We don't want them to profit that much. It was just excessive. They just can't profit that much. So we're going to go find a company that'll do that for us. Okay. That's really what the question's got to be asked is, at what point does Glenfarne walk away? Because you asked them to build the pipeline, and now you're making it difficult for them to do it. You're questioning their motives and their ability to manage the project and make profit. You're like, you got to share with us how much profit you're going to make because you're greedy. We're not greedy. We're acting on behalf of the people. We've got a constitutional requirement to maximize our benefit. So we need these taxes. You're being greedy. You profiteers. Okay. So Glenfarne walks away. Now you are left with a project that you can't build. What's interesting is Glenfarne owns 75% of it. So how do you build the project being 25% owner? And does Glenfarne have a requirement to sell it back to you or give it back to you if they choose not to build it? If they can't, I don't know. I wonder if that's in the fine print. Does it revert back? Does the project revert back to state ownership, AGDC ownership, if Glenfarne doesn't do FID? They choose not to build it. That's a possibility, I guess. You get the project back and now it's sitting in your lap and and you've got no options because nobody else wants to build it. Al, I'm not gonna oppose you on this, right? I am personally opposed to any property tax mechanism for government raising funds, okay? But it's not enough. It's like everybody's got an armpit, everybody's got an opinion. somewhere there's the saying, right? Everybody's opinion stinks. Everybody's got an armpit that stinks. I'm butchering it, I know. Point is, it's not enough to be against property tax. You got to have an alternative that is going to be feasible. So if we're not going to have property tax at the state or local level, then how does the government get its money? Let's back up. You as the citizen who want government, because you're a constitutional republic, right? So you have a need for state and local government. How are you going to fund your government? If you don't fund it with property tax by taxing yourself and your property, how do you do it? Okay. So when you have that alternative, then you can say, we need to do this instead of property tax. And then have that conversation, because it's not going to do us any good. It doesn't do anybody any good to just say abolish property tax. Okay, well, what else? How else are you going to do it? How else are you going to raise your money? Do we need to raise less money and have smaller government? Absolutely. I'm totally on board with that. Let's reduce the cost of our government. Got it. How are we going to do that? You know what happens? The sitting representative who wants to go into the Senate here says, we can reorder our taxes, our tax structure. We can reorder our permanent fund dividend structure. We can reduce spending. We can call it a fiscal plan. And what everybody hears is, oh, he's for taxes. Okay, you get what you get. If you can't listen, if you've got selective hearing, you're like, uh-oh, I want a solution, but it can't have taxes. Just get rid of property taxes. I mean, you're smoking crack. You got to have some sort of tax if you want government. If you're of the opinion that you don't need government, well, then you and I have got a philosophical fundamental disagreement that we're not going to be able to get over because we need some level of government. Let's get rid of property tax, but what are you going to put in its place? It wouldn't have done any good, Rick. They've already said on the record, we want the pipeline. They are speaking out of both sides of their mouth. They're saying, yes, I want a pipeline. And over here, they're like, but I can't put policies in place that'll make the pipeline. They're just real comfortable with lying. A better question's not going to trip them up. Okay, here's the Dean says tariff is the alternative. So I'm not sure how to answer that. You did pose it as a question. There's a question mark there. I don't know whether tariff is the. So I'm trying to equate tariff to what domestic, because the tariff is something that the federal government has put on other companies outside of the United States. In the state government, we're talking. We've never discussed tariffs. I've never discussed tariffs. Let's just put it that way. I don't know whether tariffs is an option. My instinct tells me that is a thing that occurs at the federal level, at the country level, and not at the state level. But maybe not. Is a tariff just another word for a tax of some sort? Just a different type of tax. So we call it a tariff, call it a sales tax. Does it matter? Does it matter what the name is? You're structurally you're collecting tax at a certain position in the sales, the exchange of money. That's what I mean. Not the sales, but the exchange of money. Income tax, you're taking money before the money is exchanged for labor. I give my labor. I'm supposed to get a paycheck. A portion of it comes to the government instead of to me because there's a tax. Sales tax, I get my money from my work, my labor. I go out and spend it. A portion of that spend then has to go towards the government. What if you want to call it a tariff? Who pays, right? Is it us paying? Is it oil companies paying? We just have to have that alternative. If you don't want to have a property tax, then somebody else has to pay. I don't care what you call it. There's a good question. When is the next possible constitutional convention? Corey. Decent question. House floor is going on. Let's see what they got to say.
302, the member from District 16 will explain the changes made by the other body.
Hearing no objection, House Bill 302 is before the body. Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to read?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For House Bill 302, the Senate made 3 changes. The first change was relatively small. It ensured that language in Section 9 of the bill does not limit the authority of the Director of the Division of Insurance under existing statute. The second change inserted language from SB 185 into Sections 4 through 8. SB 185 affirms that Alaska's trade practices and frauds chapter is regulated under the federal McCarran-Ferguson Act and Graham-Leach-Bliley Act. It also updates Alaska insurance laws by clarifying permissible rebate and discount practices, allowing health-related wellness incentives, banning misleading free insurance advertising, and permitting insurers to operate good faith pilot programs. The third change increased Alaska's unemployment insurance benefits, which haven't been updated since 2009. With this update, the maximum weekly benefit increases from $370 to $470. $470 is 45% of the maximum taxable wage base in Alaska. I want to note that 50% is the national standard, which would be $521. The change in the other body also increased the weekly benefit for each dependent from $24 to $72. And lastly, the Department of Labor and Workforce Development will now have the authority to annually adjust the benefit for inflation by tying it to the average taxable wage base. I support these changes and I urge a yes vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to explain the relevance of the unemployment insurance changes for our construction, oil, and gas workforce. A lot of folks who work surface transportation in the summer work pipeline work in the winter. When they're laid off in the fall, there's a length of time that they do not control before the ice road season comes in. Before passage of this bill, our current maximum weekly benefit of $375 is almost 4 times lower than the state of Washington. So one of the reasons we've been losing skilled trades workers is they can't make ends meet. And in every other state in the Pacific Northwest, they can earn a lot better wages, recognizing that construction, oil, and gas is inherently seasonal. This bill is essential to make sure that we have pipe fitters, teamsters, operating engineers who work on the slope and work surface transportation in the summer, who are here if we can build a gas line. Please support our resource development industry and vote yes.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House concur in the Senate amendments to committee substitute for House Bill 302, Labor and Commerce, thus adopting Senate committee substitute for House Bill 302, Transportation, amended Senate, and recommend the members vote yes.
Are you ready for the question? Question before the body is, shall the House concur in the Senate changes to committee substitute for House Bill 302, Labor and Commerce, thus adopting Senate committee substitute for House Bill 302, Transportation, amended Senate. Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
34 yeas, 6 nays.
By a vote of 34 yeas to 6 nays, the House has concurred with the Senate changes to House Bill 302. We do have an effective date.
And away it goes to the governor. So that is how you pass a bill that increases the cost to private employers, public employers too, for unemployment insurance. That's why we need a growing economy. That's why we need lower cost energy. Okay. Corey asked, when is the next possible constitutional convention? The legislature can call a constitutional convention anytime they want. The next possible time for the public to call a constitutional convention is the next decennial, the next every 10 years. So we just voted on it a couple of years ago. We got 8 more years, however many it is. Is it every was it 2020 or I forget. Anyway, every 10 years it's on the ballot, and that's how the people can choose to call a constitutional convention. But the legislature could call one anytime they wanted. So that's how you can. Interesting question. Al says, if I were there, would I be a David Eastman? Standards of conviction, consistence, back your decisions based on the state constitution, having the ability not to join the crowd. Al, I served for 6 years. I will let my experience do the talking. Chris says you can't have a tariff, a state tariff in the United States. It's kind of what I was thinking, but we can tax. We have the ability to tax. We just have to figure out the right one and figure out who pays. Okay. Yeah, Craig, there's a lot of us that are thinking that the reason why we have such a challenging economy, people don't want to invest, is because our legislature. But the people keep electing the same people, the same representatives and senators. Like this whole OversightLIVE thing is to try to highlight what's happening. Don't send the same people back because you keep making things harder for us to grow our economy. Like, I don't know why election after election you still have these yahoos get voted back in, because our side's not showing up. Yeah, right. You want to kill small business, then you're going to need more unemployment insurance. What would I do if you had the power to suggest to the residents of the state to do with that convention? Oh, what would I do? Number one, I would put require a PFD to be paid by statute. That's number one. Solve the PFD problem so that there's no risk that the PFD doesn't get paid, and it requires the legislature to follow the statute. And then they just have to fix the statute. That's number one. Number two would be to take the constitutional spending limit that we have and reorder it. It is ineffective right now. So take that spending limit and put it down and tie it to the size of our economy. So we know what our state GDP is, state gross domestic product. It's actually got a different term, but anyway, the size of our economy. And constitutionally, don't allow the state to spend more year over year than a percentage of the growth of your economy. So if your economy is not growing, don't allow the legislature to keep spending. Tie the size of the economy to the spend. Right now, it's not. Now, the so what to that is, well, what happens if the economy grows, but state revenue doesn't grow? So, for example, if you have economic growth in the oil industry, then the state revenue grows. But if a data center comes in and they're an LLC and they don't pay a corporate income tax, there's no other state tax that's going to collect revenue from that data center, from that economic activity. There's more people employed. There's There's costs because there's more people there, more kids in school, there's more people on the roads, right? But there's no revenue generating measure to tie that economic growth back to the economy, or to the budget, I'm sorry. So there's a disconnect there in both directions. You want to limit the spending to the size of the economy, but the economy needs to provide more revenue to the state government as it grows. It will do that in the oil industry, but it doesn't do that in the non-oil industry, which is everything other than oil. Okay. This is why I said restructure it that way, with a low broad-based sales tax to tie the economic growth back to the state government. That's why I think it's necessary. Not because I want to pay more tax, and not because government needs more money to spend more. I don't believe that. The structure needs to be there so that the economy is tied, the growth in the economy is tied to the government. Then you put a spending limit in place. So those are the two things right there that I think would matter. There's probably some other things that I can think of, but those are two that I put in my fiscal plan that would go forward if we had the votes. Hope that answers your question. Philanthropist Frank, good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is exactly right. Thank you. If you raise taxes on your on your gas, the cost of gas goes up. So those sneaky little Democrats in a press conference is saying we got to get more money out of taxes. Oh, and nobody's saying that you're going to have anything other than $24 or $22 gas. I mean, it's like, but your taxes are leading to higher prices. That's the way that it works. Like, yeah. Thank you, Frank, for picking that up. Interesting. They must have Siny died.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Rules Chair. Representative Freer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope to keep this a little bit short, but I've got a kind of a long speech. I apologize. This is a few on the topic of 13 years now it's here.
Okay. I don't want to hear a speech from her. We're both gone for different reasons, Frank. Obviously, the percentage of the public in one of the districts that I ran as a Senate candidate didn't want to hear my message. The other district did. I won one district and lost the other. Okay. Conservative candidates need to run on three things: statutory PFD, affordable energy, and private sector jobs. Those things will resonate. I agree with 2 and 3. Statutory PFD is not going to resonate, not with enough voters to get anything done. I totally agree that we need to be following the statute. But here's the thing. As soon as you pay a statutory dividend, you're going to lose $1 billion out of your budget. So where does that come from? Which department do you cut? Well, you could cut waste out. I identified $300 million of waste, which was the positions that are appropriated money for, but no one's ever hired into them. Okay? Unfilled vacancies. So you could eliminate $300 million. Now you got $700 million that you got to come up with to cut $1 billion out. You can't start eliminating departments, right? Maybe you could. Which department do you want to eliminate? You want to cut waste out? So let's say we cut, how much waste do you think we can cut out of each one of the departments? 10%? 20%? 25%? How long is it going to take you to cut that waste out? Is it we just do it in the budget and then expect the bureaucracy to do it? Or do they wait you out because you're only going to be there for 2 years? 4 years if you're a senator, or 4 years if you're a governor. They just wait you out. You got to have a comprehensive approach to it. So just saying pay a statutory dividend and grow the economy, it doesn't solve the problem. You have to have a comprehensive restructuring. I don't care whether people disagree with me or not, because I'm not seeking re-election like right now. I'm not asking for your vote. I'm telling you what I think has to happen in order for this state to fix itself. You can disagree with me all you want. I don't care. Statutory dividend is a slogan, and it is understood to mean something that is not feasible. It's not feasible. It's not doable right now. You've got to restructure things if you want that to happen. You can't do it. You don't have the political the political will and the agreement with enough legislators to make it happen. It's just infuriating that our side cannot see this. Yes, we want a statutory dividend. Yes, we want smaller government. How the hell are you going to do that? We can fight over a lot of different things in the legislature. I can tick off a list of maybe 5 or 6 real big items that cause us to all blow up and not like each other and not work together and not get elected. You got to have a comprehensive plan in this state, because you can't just whack the budget and expect it to fix itself. We can eliminate departments, Dean. Which one do you want to eliminate? Which one? Do you want to eliminate Department of Transportation? How about Department of Education? Those are the 2 biggest. You want Fish and Game? Corrections. DEC? We could eliminate DEC. Go look at the size of DEC. Family Services? You want to eliminate Family Services? Department of Health. Department of Health is another big one. Corrections. You want to eliminate corrections? How about public safety? Police troopers. Want to eliminate them? Boards and commissions. You want to eliminate boards and commissions? Okay, boards and commissions is not a department. Eliminate boards and commissions, and you don't save $1 billion. You will save some, and you don't have the political capital to do that. Do you notice that all of the bills that come forward that are extending the sunset of a board, do you recognize that pretty much everyone votes yes to extend the board? Because the constituency back in their districts is not going to allow them. They're not going to be happy if they got rid of the board. People will get unelected if they get. So that's the situation. You want to kill boards and commissions? Okay. It'll work for 2 years, and then they'll elect people in to bring the board back, right? So which department is it? Which department do you end? Department of Health. Dean says, get rid of Department of Health. Okay. I'm on board. We'll get rid of Department of Health. Public health, don't need it. Responsible for everybody else. Now, federal government says, you want Medicaid dollars? Who's going to process that? Who's going to handle the federal dollars? So we're going to say no to the federal dollars? Okay. Somebody's going to have to deal with the federal government with regard to Medicaid. Which department's going to take that on? We don't need it. We'll say no to the federal. Okay. Is this even feasible? Is it even realistic? Do you even have the votes? Do you have 21 and 11 people who are going to agree to get rid of Medicaid in the state of Alaska? Because that's what you do if you eliminate the Department of Health. You know what you do is you tell Department of Health through the person who is elected governor and appoints a commissioner that you're going to fix yourself and you're going to become less costly. You're going to actually do good management. Okay. That's how you reduce the cost of each one of these departments, is through better management. Maybe you're going to have to spend some money and send some people to school or to some kind of training to level the bubble, make sure that they understand what's expected of them from a management perspective. Maybe you have to fire somebody and bring in a better manager. I don't know. But if you want to improve the cost of government, it will take time, and you have to do it through management process of better management. It's the same thing that you have to do with business. Fire the person, fire the CEO, fire the CFO, fire the general manager, bring somebody in who can better manage, and then over time you improve the bottom line of the company. It's the same thing that you would have to do in government. You want to cut it? You want to just whack the budget? That's what happened first year of Governor Dunleavy. And you can see there was no appetite, not in the legislature. There's no appetite in the public to continue that. Again, hear me, because here's the risk that somebody is listening right now or listening later on a recording is going to say, oh, Ben's not that conservative. He's not for cutting government. He won't eliminate the Department of Health. Yeah. I'm telling you why it's not possible. I want limited government. And the way we have to do it is through better management. There are programs that if the legislature were actually doing its job and looking down at its results delivery units, that's what they call them, results delivery units, and asking each one of those. So results delivery unit is what actually gets earmarked for spending. We're going to appropriate this money to this RDU. So the results delivery unit should be coming back to the legislature and showing them what results they're getting. That conversation is not happening. We desperately need better management so that the results in the government is tied to the spending that is happening. Then, and only then, are you going to get a less costly government. You can whack it at the budget and it'll come back next year. It'll come back in the supplemental budget. You don't have to take my word for it. Just go get elected and go study it from the inside where you've got the authority to ask the questions, and then you'll see what I see. You don't have to trust me. Just go do your own work for yourself and figure it out. Corey, that's a great suggestion. That's what I suggested. I took that to my finance lead when we were in the majority. That was Delana Johnson, Representative Delana Johnson. She's the co-chair of finance. I said, look, here's $300 million in positions that we're paying for that haven't had anybody in more than a year or more. Okay, well, maybe some positions are harder to fill than others. And so let's not eliminate the funding for the ones that have only been vacant for a year, because maybe it's taking them it's taking them longer to find somebody. Okay. All right. Well, that's still not enough. Let's take it to 2 years. If it's been vacant for 2 years, then we won't cut it. But if it's been vacant for more than 2 years, we'll cut that money. And I can't even get Delana Johnson, who was the finance co-chair at the time, to support removing that money from the budget. Okay. So Why? Why can't we do it? Because we got the wrong people in the legislature. Even the easy stuff we can't do. How about, Frank says, how about collecting on the default loans? 20 million on just the Trail Lakes and Tutka Bay hatcheries. Okay. I'll take your word for it, Frank. 20 million. We've got $1 to $2 billion, depending on where you start counting, of a deficit. It'll take a lot of loans defaulted on to get to $1 billion at 20 million a pop. I'm not saying not do it. If this is a possibility, I am unaware of what you're talking about off the top of my head. $20 million, $20 million. Let's reduce spending. I'm on board. Corey, great suggestion on audits. Every year, the state auditor is putting out audits that are showing where we're mismanaging things, where it's costing us extra money because we're mismanaging things, and the legislature is not addressing it. The administration addresses some of it, and then the next year, the next audit highlights the stuff from the previous audit that didn't get addressed. All right? You're just going to have to take my word for it or go get elected. Management of our government is the problem. Poor management. We have to fix that if we want to reduce the cost of our government. One of the ways to shine the spotlight on the problem is the audit that comes forward. Multiple audits. There's a huge trail to follow. Miguel's hit the nail on the head. Zero-based budgeting, zero-balanced budget. You don't start the process from what you had last year. You start from zero, and you fight for every dollar. The legislature does not operate that way. You would have to have a structural change in the administration and in the legislature to require that to happen. Our computer systems aren't even set up to do that. You would have to, when I'm saying structural, I'm saying the process and the bureaucracy and the computer systems don't support it. You would have to change it in order to make that happen. 100% a great idea. Let's do that. 21 and 11 votes to make it happen in the House or in the legislature, in the House and the Senate. So you got to have more people watching shows like this and having conversations about who do you reelect? Are they going to support these measures? Are they going to support and are they going to hold the bureaucrats' feet to the fire for the management decisions? I had a conversation in a budget subcommittee where a nonprofit, this gal she probably didn't even know what she was getting herself into, comes to Juneau and says, we need more money. This nonprofit is a school related. It is daycare related. I think it was daycare or preschool or something like that. And I said, how many students are in your care? How many students is this money funding? And she didn't have an answer for me. She hadn't been asked that question before. It's not the first time that she's come to the legislature asking for money, or maybe she is her first time, but her organization, not the first time that they've come asking for state funds. But I ask a simple question of, well, how many people is this money going towards? Didn't have an answer. We'll have to get back to you. We need more people in the legislature who will actually ask good questions and hold people accountable for being good managers. It is not happening. You can cut the budget and you're not going to have better managers to do the same thing with less or do less with less money. They're certainly not going to be able to, like, if they can't manage it now, they can't do more with less money. They probably can't do less with less money, right? It's the management problem. Zero-based budgeting. Don't need a constitutional change for that. That's something that the legislature, the finance teams, and the Office of Management and Budget can make happen. Yes. Eating the elephant one bite at a time. That's exactly right. Small wins, big picture, incremental change. You can eat the elephant. Unless you our side just thinks, oh, elephant, we can kill it. We got a big gun. Let's just kill it. Yeah, but the goal, the thing was you had to get rid of the elephant. You don't just kill it. You have to get rid of it. So you have to do it one bite at a time, one section at a time. It's going to take time. It's a big problem. It's a big elephant. You can't just kill it. Of course you can kill it. Not going to solve your problem. You got to get rid of it. Boom Bam. I don't think I've seen your name on here before. Thank you for joining us tonight. Could changing PFD eligibility to must be Alaskan resident for 5 years and Alaskan resident has to be 5 years old before being eligible? That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. That's what I'll have to say. I have not studied changing the criteria of who is qualified. I know that the courts have ruled from the very beginning of the PFD program, there was a different structure initially created that got shot down by the courts. You had a tiered approach to it. If you'd been in the state longer than others, you got more, I believe is the way it was, and that was shot down. So my guess is that the courts will come back. It's going to have to be equitable. So if everybody doesn't get a dividend until they're 5 years, then that wouldn't be much different than everybody doesn't get a dividend if they aren't there for 1 year. So maybe that's feasible. You delay a dollar figure for, like, you reduce the amount of money that's necessary to go out to the dividend by delaying payments to people until they've been here for 5 years who would have otherwise under current law been eligible for a dividend. So that saves you some money between now implementation of that and when the 5 years is up. Those people will then draw a dividend. So, but I don't understand how that solves the long-term problem. Same thing with the 5 years old before you're being eligible. Saves you some money now. When they're 5, then you're going to be paying the same that you would be paying now. So buys you time. That would maybe buy you some time with how much needs to be out statutorily for the dividend. Okay. But we're not following the dividend. Alaska resident and 5 years old, that makes you eligible, but we're not even, like, the amount of money that's being appropriated for the dividend is a decision based on legislative. So there's a disconnect there. Yes, we could reduce the number of people who are eligible. You could find a way to do that or delay that. But the problem is how you appropriate the sum. If you're just going to appropriate a smaller number because there's fewer people, okay. We're not even having that conversation in the legislature. No one in the legislature talks about, well, we're going to pay a dividend and there's only X number of people, and so we can pay more. There's fewer people this year taking a dividend than there was last year, so we can pay more this year. That there's not even a connection being made during the appropriations process on how many people are getting a dividend. It's not a, I mean, someone might ask the question, what are we projecting as the number of people who are going to be eligible? They might ask that, but there's no connection between how much gets appropriated, should more or should less, based on the number of people, age of that. I don't see how that would solve the problem. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't believe that the House, at the end of the session, everybody's, you know what special orders are, right? This is just people want to get up and say something and speak, right? They want to have their say. The Senate's like, no, we're not doing special orders. We're signing die. We're out of here. We got other things to do. These people got things to say. They got to give their little speeches. Excellent question. Excellent question. Yes, they are, honey. I am going to show you right now. Okay. If you go and you go to okay, so I'm gonna Google it first. Alaska legislative audit. Let's do audit. Yep, there it is. State Division of Legislative Audit. Alaska Division of Legislative Audit. Sorry. That is, yeah, that's right. Okay, so all audits. Click on this link right here. All audits. This is your audits. You want to read and put yourself to sleep? Every year you've got a single audit, state single audit. Okay. 2026 type single audit. You can download the report right here. Okay. This is a huge report. It's a huge audit. So you want to find out where you're going to cut spending. You want to find out where you're going to do better management. You find it right here. So you've got financial documents. Like these are standard financial documents reporting, right? But what you really get to is towards the back of the document here. Forget which section it is, but anyway, I'm just gonna scroll to it. Lots of financial stuff here. Okay, this is where you get to. These are the findings. These are the audit findings. Basic financial statements, significant deficiency. Where is this in? This is Department of Revenue. Okay, we're going to pick on Department of Revenue. First finding, prior year finding, 2024-024. Okay, this is finding 2025-018. It's based on a prior year finding, the year prior. Basic financial statements, significant deficiency. Financial statement footnote disclosures for $32.2 million of state cash were not included in the fiscal year 25 annual comprehensive report, which is what we're reading right now for fiscal year 25 at the end of the field work. Context, cause, criteria, effect. The fiscal year 25 report footnote disclosure for $32.2 million was invested by of cash invested by NTSC was not subject to audit procedures. So they didn't list it and it wasn't subject to audit. Serious. We're supposed to audit everything, right? Recommendation. Department of Revenue's Division of Administrative Services Director should work with a state accountant to ensure that all required cash financial statement disclosures are included in the fiscal year 26 draft. So management, making sure that what is supposed to be audited is audited. Okay, here's a new finding for this year, still in DOR. Significant deficiency. An evaluation of DOR's tax division's information systems controls identified significant internal control weaknesses. Context, cause, criteria, effect. The internal control weakness increased the risk of noncompliance with state and federal regulations and financial statement misstatements. Recommend DOR tax division director should strengthen information technology controls. Better management. Okay, let's pick on somebody else. That's DOR. Let's find health. Department of Education. I want to go to health. Labor Workforce Development. There is DCCED. Veterans Affairs. I should do a search. I'll scroll through here and it'll take me forever to find it. I hope you find this interesting. Ooh, lots of them here. DNR. Fish and Game. Public Safety. Department of Health. Okay, so what do we find? This is a prior year finding as well. Material weakness. During the fiscal year 25 management of Department of Health's Division of Healthcare Services did not obtain a system and organization controls type 2 report on the internal controls for financial reporting from one of the primary service organizations contracted to support claims processing through the MMIS, which is the Medicaid Management Information System. Okay. Context, if you want to learn what's the criteria, the effect. The absence of the type 2 report providing assurance over controls related to financial reporting for the system's operator created a lack of sufficient appropriate evidence to support management assertions of completeness, accuracy, and valuation of claims processed through MMIS. During fiscal year 25, MMIS processed $2.9 billion in general fund expenditures, which resulted in approximately $2.3 billion in federal grants and aid revenues. The fiscal year 25 general fund and governmental agency activities audit opinions were qualified in recognition of the material internal control weaknesses and the inability to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence of the operating effectiveness of service organizations and internal controls. So we don't know whether we spent $2.9 billion appropriately or not. The legislature doesn't take this up. I've had a personal conversation with the auditor numerous times. She is absolutely frustrated that both the administration and the legislature kind of turn a blind eye and don't really care to dig into this. When I say the bandwidth of legislators to actually get into and make our government better doesn't exist, I'm not kidding. It doesn't exist. The committees are not digging into these things. They're digging into the things of the people and the special interests that are demanding more spending and more things. They're not looking internally to the government and trying to make the government work better by asking the right questions. You have got the wrong damn people in the legislature. The people who are in charge of prioritizing what the legislature focuses on, what a committee focuses on, it's the wrong damn people. You want to reduce the cost of government? It's all right here in our single audit. Lots of questions can be asked. The governor can turn to his commissioners and say, WTF? Frank, Bill, Sally, what are you doing to fix this? I put you here for a reason. What's it going to take? Do you need different people? Do you need more money? What do you need? What do you need to fix it? This is a finding 2025-046. based on the prior year finding 2024-048. It's not the first year that we've known about this problem and it still exists. Like, how many years do you need to fix it? Okay, that's the first one in Department of Health. Second one in Department of Health. Number 47, also a prior year finding. The amount of SNAP benefits reported to USDA as issued by the state's electronic benefits transfer contractor was $1.2 billion. Sorry, $1.2 million. $1.2 million more than the amount of authorized benefits reported in data from the Division of the Assistance. Furthermore, FIS could not provide reliable audit trail of issuances. Effect. Significant discrepancies between EIS benefit data and the EBT's contractors' issuance records undermine confidence in the eligibility system and may be indicative of significant identified processing errors. Inadequate system controls management increases the risk of incorrect or ineligible benefits. Question costs, $1.2 million. There's a recommendation. Want to go to another one? This is finding 48, brand new one. Testing of 72 fiscal year 25 SNAP EBT issuances found 2 automated EIS benefit calculations that did not consider an increase in unearned income related to Alaska's senior benefits program. Effect. Inadequate SNAP automated data processing controls increases the risk of incorrect or ineligible benefits. There's another one. There's another one. Let's just look at these. What is the question cost? No question costs there. No question costs there. Another one. Question costs $3,000 and $759,000. Another finding. Question costs none. Another finding, question costs none. $4,000, known question costs. Another finding. Question costs. $2,600 known. $712 million question costs on that line. The second line, $2,800, $5.7 million question costs. We don't know. The state should dedicate resources. This is a recommendation. States should dedicate the resources necessary to determine Medicaid and CHIP eligibility in a timely manner. Would saving money increase the PFD? Would reducing the budget increase the PFD? That is the question. The legislature will say, well, if you find efficiencies and you reduce the cost of government, then we've got other things that we want to spend. We want to increase government on. we want to give more money to education. We want to give more money to corrections. We want to give more money to transportation. If you free up money, the legislature is always going to want to spend it on something. Again, this is why if you want the PFD program to be a downwards pressure on government, you have to put it in the Constitution and require it to be paid by statute, or put a dollar figure in the Constitution, but you're not going to get the votes for that. That way, the legislature is required to pay a certain amount of their money to Alaskans instead of paying it to government. It is a a downwards pressure. Take some of the earnings out of the permanent fund, the earnings that would otherwise go to growing government, and grow your private sector, grow your families. But you got to require it, because at some point in time, if you don't free up the money, the PFD goes away, because the government's going to continue to spend on itself, and it's going to continue to grow. So yes, if you can find money to reduce spending, to find efficiencies and reduce the cost of government through waste and abuse and mismanagement, then potentially you can have a larger dividend if the legislature is going to choose that use of that money, barring a constitutional amendment requiring it. We're on the same page. We're just against property taxes. I'm against it too. I just know there's got to be an alternative. Frank says, we need to get rid of the elephant, replace it with the lynx. The lynx are not afraid to eat their own. We've got plenty of those. They're called Republicans. We like eating our own. Okay. Boom, bam. Glad you found us. Keep the questions coming. Now you know where to find audits. The next question, if you go read the audit, the next question you'll have for me is, what does this mean? Seriously, it is a complex document. It is written in audit speak, and words mean things, and it's different reading than you normally read. So it's dry, it's technical, but anybody can read it and then ask the question, what does this mean? And then in the legislature, the auditor's sitting right there on the record or in your office, and you just say, tell me what this means in layman's terms. Like, what does this actually mean? And she'll do that. She'll tell you. She'll explain it to you. And then you have the question of the administration. Why is it this? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to turn the audit report into something that's usable in the legislative committee setting and ask the administration to explain itself. Why isn't it? What do you need to fix yourself? Okay. Wow. Sadler announced his retirement. I bet he's not the only House member that chooses not to run again. It's been you don't really hear it out in the public. The press doesn't really talk about it, but the Republican caucus, it's been dysfunctional, to say the least. Okay. What's going on? I am on the wrong coming soon. They must have gavelled out. Okay. All right, guys. I think that's the end of the legislative session today. The gavel looks like they've gavelled out. Next up, special session. We get to find out whether the Senate leaders are actually telling the truth in their press conference and they want to see a pipeline go forward. And what are they going to do to help the only company that has come forward that says they want to build the pipeline, but they need help? We're going to find out whether they're serious about it. So we'll stay tuned. If we've got stuff to talk about, then I'm gonna jump on here and we're gonna have a conversation. Otherwise, I may see you Wednesday when they gavel back in, or start their work. Anyway, subscribe to the show. That way, when I do come on, it comes up on your phone or your computer, and you're notified that we're going to be broadcasting. All right. Stay tuned, and we will see you later this week or next. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for spreading the word.